On March 19, 2014, Spy Chunsoft will arrive with a special game, which will commemorate the 45th anniversary of Shonen Jump magazine, a game with great expectations behind that only perhaps could have been for many what Jump Force lacked. When I refer to J-Star's Victory Versus on my channel and on one or another live on Twitch, which by the way you can follow me, we are on stream every week, people answered me with enthusiasm, with very good expectations about the topics that they were going to take on this possible review, and I deeply wondered, do they really not remember clearly what the experience was like in this game, or simply it was a feeling damned by the incredible failure that was Jump Force? Anyway, here it is. J-Star's Victory Versus is the fifth crossover game from Jump magazine, counting the Battle Stadium, which we already talked about in a previous video, the Jump Superstar on Nintendo DS, among some others. This title was released for the first time with the name of Project Versus J in 2012 and arrived for the PlayStation 3 console and surprisingly also for Sony's portable console of the moment, the PS Vita, versions which have certain distinctive characteristics that are not very relevant besides, of course, the graphic level. The arrival to a PlayStation 4 was announced after the arrival of this game to countries outside the Eastern continent, with the news that it would bring an additional arcade mode. But let's talk about the game itself. J-Stars features an adventure mode that acts as the narrative starting point of the game. This is divided into different arcs with unique leaders such as Naruto, Luffy, Toriko, and Ichigo. In these arcs of J-Adventure, the plot is presented in the form of subtitled dialogue using the original footage from the anime. For this point, an element pretty used in games of this kind. It is a story that revolves around an ultimate tournament that brings together all the most important fighters of Shonen Jump magazine. This tournament has characteristics beyond just consecutive battles. The navigation system by levels is using a small ship to go from island to island, facing known enemies and gathering members in our group. This makes a lot of sense because of the combat system that J-Stars sets up. The ships is constantly upgraded to be able to carry more people, move faster, and even float above mainland. While circulating through these waters, there are many known locations from different universes such as the Kame House, the Trap Tower, even the Knockup Stream. These are very well thought additions that bring life and color to the environment. In addition, the developers were concerned that the characters that we are recruiting at least have interaction between them on the journey, a factor that helps the fact that they are together to fight, not feel forced. Honestly, I think that both the wings as well as the spontaneous interactions of the characters and elements placed in the form of Easter eggs to the manga's anime was what I enjoyed the most in the game, because I would like each of the adventure arcs to be they choose if they had different stories or objectives beyond just participating in the tournament with different teams. Also, it's not like you can participate with your own custom team. You should always use the same teams that the game imposes on you. As for the story of the tournament, it's not that I was expecting too much. However, I feel that the arguments for the fighters to end up fighting are very generic. I think something better could have happened to them. In any way, the interactions of the characters have a certain charisma, and they are things that we can say we can let go of. For this reason, it is tempting to simply hit the button to skip the characters' dialogues after a certain point, because you know that the only purpose of the conversation is going to agree on a fight. Luckily, they will give you useful information to improve your skills or find useful items. In Road to Victory mode, you simply have to overcome a series of battles in set scenarios until you complete all the challenges, a game mode already used enough in the genre. The store offers the possibility of buying the remaining characters of the cast directly, in addition to supporting characters, since there are some that cannot be used as main ones. In the store, you can also buy improvements for the adventure ship J and boxes that contain letters which are used to improve the qualities of the fighters you want. Up to this point, everything is predictable within what can be expected from an arcade game combining the most important characters of the Jump universes. And then it comes as much. Don't expect to find any super deep mechanics, a polished combat system for the online experience. No, everything could be summarized as an absolute fan service, but fan service that offers what it promised to be. I know many think that this game is infinitely better than Jump Force. Even though I agree that the game is a shame, I don't see it far from this one, to be honest. And that's thanks to this gameplay. Let me explain. Look, we are not going to lie. Make a story, an adventure mode where the plot has a good end goal, a decent character development, and that everything makes sense in a game that combines more than 15 different universes is practically an impossible task. I'm not going to present you for that reason, even though its story seems to me insanely boring. It is a factor that you see coming from afar away, even just by seeing its cover, but if you are at least going to make its mechanics and game system not the most balanced in the world, but at least entertaining, make you want to fight again, I gladly accept it. So are the great most of games based on anime on that do not represent the canon story directly. If the gameplay has factors of demand, replayability, and addiction, that gives you a great point in favor above many titles of the same kind. But it turns out that this game is a waste of fan service, which I think is good, using it in a moderate way. That is not the case here. I don't want to sound like a hater, because I like this game a lot. I had a good time playing to pass the time. However, its fighting mechanics leave a lot to be desired in my opinion. First, this is not a classic fighting format or an arena fighter either. It is a mix of sandbox with arcade fighting elements, which makes sense, but not when the skills of each character have such an abysmal difference between them. All the fights begin with the task of finding your rival and fixing him with your camera to have a face-to-face fight. As a consequence of that, the scenarios of the fights are much wider than one could expect. But that brings another thing. The camera and angulation of the game gives a lot of problems when trying to find a single target in the middle of a fight of 6 at the same time, and you feel like you cannot move as you like. Each character has a light attack, a strong attack, a jump, a special attack with 3 variations, a grab, a range attack, and an ultimate. You have a stamina bar that tells you how much you can block attacks, dashing, percentage of use of special powers, etc. These are 3-on-3 fights, which means you can do support attacks too. Now, that sounds good, but if it wasn't for the hitboxes in this game that were poorly executed. The block stunts are also exaggeratedly bad implemented, which causes a combat system in which you cannot measure with science what strategy the way to approach a rival is the correct one in certain cases. There are some times where a support attack can be chained with a normal combo. That is a basic to learn format, but on other occasions, rivals can be intangible and have invincibility frames by the moment they touch the ground after an attack that is supposed to have them. That is, the attacks can have a completely random reaction on the rival's animations at the moment the game wants to. A part of the bug that may occur in cases where special attacks that are activated that connect more than one hit and the rival can be shot to one side of the field for no reason. The ultimate activates when your meter here is maximum. You enter a special state and then you must land the final hit. And I'm just saying, if they thought to make a combat system so shallow and with so many failures, what was the need to make the ultimate of all the characters so conditional? That it was so farish if in the end your game is screaming fan service. These are things that in a fighting game, or at least in a cold arcade, cannot be allowed. But to finish with the first relevant information about the game, the cast of characters is quite wide as it was to be expected. 52 characters from universes of Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, Saint Seiya, Assassination Classroom, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Bleach, among others. The game is graphically enriched. It is attractive, with attractive colors and visual effects. It has an element of destruction of scenarios that I think is pretty decent and outstanding despite not being the most detailed we have seen. The power levels are relatively well implemented. RLE can practically crash my game at a certain point. The game actually had a good receive and with a very considerable amount of sales from even outside Japan, including all platforms. In my personal conclusion, J-Star's Victory is a game that offers a lot of content, tons of fan service, good graphics for the time, but falls short in implementation ideas according to the gameplay. This is the same thing that happened to Jump Force. It is graphically impressive, yes, it has good ideas, yes, but its integration to the gameplay is difficult. The combat system is imbalanced, conditioned air-conditioned, kinesthetically unpleasant, and in general a blank experience. By the way, we will talk more in depth about Jump Force in the future, but even being a game with such low reviews, J-Star seems to seem about the same, and to some extent I am surprised that those of Spike Chunsoft are continuing to make the same mistakes 4 years later. It is as if they were little interested in the proper functioning of the mechanics within their games. I would love to know in the comments your opinions about this game, which was quite popular in this day. Remember to keep leaving me recommendations for new games which you would like me to talk about in the future.